Welcome to the Know Your Ship podcast, presented by eHub. I'm your host, Frank Dolce. Welcome to the Know Your Ship podcast. I have a special guest today, Ashley Cole, Cecelia New York. You and I got to know each other at Disneyland on a little adventure that was really fun. And then we've just kind of followed along all the amazing things that you've done. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Mom of 6 kids. But I just want to talk about how you've built this unbelievable company and how you got started and all of the stuff.
Okay.
All right?
Awesome.
Ready to go? Well, I'd like to start at the beginning. First of all, I just have to say I love your new collaboration with Ballerina.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's
cowboy
been a lot
boots
of fun. It's been so fun.
Yes. I'm a huge cowboy boot fan.
Oh, good.
So those popped up.
Well,
and
who
I was
knows?
like,
Maybe we'll do men's. Who knows?
Well, I was going to ask you that at some point during the podcast. Yeah. If you're ever going to get into men's shoes.
Well, yeah, we'll see.
It might be difficult. Yeah. I wear a very specific men's shoe.
What's that?
Dress shoe. Allen Edmonds.
Okay.
I think Allen Edmonds are the best quality
they are nice.
men's shoe and fit. Like they're my most comfortable shoes. Cowboy boots, Allen Edmonds, and Jordans are the most comfortable shoes that I wear.
I don't know if most people are Allen Edmonds and cowboy boots. It's an interesting combo.
It is?
Yeah,
well,
I think so.
I think we could do something with the men's shoe line, but it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough to get the right fashion, but still
the comfort and the fit. It's
quality, comfort, and still make it feel like it's a wearable daily.
Oh, I know. That's what I try to do with women's all day, every day.
Yes, you do, and I noticed yours as well.
Thanks.
Those are amazing. Okay, well, let's start from the beginning. You grew up in a family of 9 kids.
Yes, I'm the oldest of 9. Here in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Oh. Okay, I didn't know that.
I moved to Connecticut in high school.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so, it's crazy, amazing. My dad had an airline called Morris Air here in Utah that sold to Southwest when I was in 5th grade. And we were all set to move to Texas, and that was the plan. We bought a house there. My parents had taken me out and registered for school and tried to sell me on everything. It would have been awesome, actually. You know, I love Dallas so much. But my dad called one night. It was really late, and we were all kind of stressed about it. And he was at the Southwest headquarters, and he would fly back and forth while we were ending the school year. And he said, "Is Mom there?" I said, "She's asleep." It's like 11 o'clock on a school night. And he said, "Well, we're not moving." And I was so happy. I ran out and ripped the for sale sign out of our house in the night and threw it down. And we decided to stay there. My dad was a little too much of a mover and shaker for Southwest.
Okay, so he was going to work for Southwest.
He was going to work for Southwest. That was part of the deal. When Southwest bought Morris, he was going to come on as like a VP there. And he didn't play by the rules. He was telling them all the things, and he's gonna, all the ideas and the problems and ruffling feathers. So Herb Kelleher sat him down and said, "David, this is not gonna work."
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a trait that you took from your dad?
Yes, for sure. I mean, I think I'm a little more, a little more aware of, I think that's the side of a woman, right? A little more aware of trying not to be offensive sometimes and things like that. But I definitely have that side. I know when I was in high school and we all did like those color tests, like, are you yellow, blue, white, red? And I was like red all the way down. I'm like, that is wrong. That is so wrong. I am a blue and a white.
And that's what a red would say.
Yes. And my friends are like, "Are you kidding me? You're the most red person we know. You always have all the plans and the ideas, and we're always doing what you want." I'm like,
and we're always doing what you want.
Yeah, I just great. Totally, I guess I didn't know myself at 17.
I love that. Well, so this is when you're senior in high school, or around it, or you're in high school.
So this was when I was in 6th grade. about Southwest.
Oh, gotcha.
So my dad sold Morris when I was like 11. By 12, we were going to move to start my 7th grade year in Highland Park.
In Texas. Okay.
Yeah, in Dallas. And then didn't work out. So we stayed. And then my dad took 5 years. He had a 5-year non-compete after he sold Morris. He couldn't do any airlines in the United States. So he went and did WestJet, Air New Zealand. He was doing things outside, helping other airlines start. And in 5 years, he was planning his perfect airline, and that was JetBlue.
Okay, so what I'd like to know about that time in your life as you're watching your dad and your parents go through this, are you cultivating this entrepreneurial spirit?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was just always, I feel like, excitement. There was always stuff going on. Like one day my dad would drive home in a snowstorm and he had this crazy car with a big, thick antenna straight up and this big contraption. Like, what is that? What are you doing? This looks like some like Back to the Future thing. Goes, oh no, we drive this on the runway and it shoots ice particles up in the air to help the fog. So I was driving it up and down the runway today and then I just wanted to drive it home. It's so fun. And I feel like there was just always stuff going on and he was always out throwing bags if they needed it. He was everywhere. So we would feel that energy, hear that conversation. And then all the time when we'd go somewhere, people would come up and be like, oh my gosh, I just started at the ticket counter and your dad was training me and he just came because he wanted to like tell us more about what was going on. He developed ticketless travel. He invented it. So he was always excited about it. And you know, it was just this energy that was just very contagious and it was fun. And it became so normal that it wasn't something I think I recognized until I got older, how unique and special that was.
Well, I think there's lots of parallels. Just knowing a little bit about what you've accomplished and how your dad went about it, and you're right in the middle of it in these formative years. So, and I think there's a lot of parallels with what you're doing. And especially one thing I wanted to talk about is you're from a family of 9 kids in the family, and a dad who's consulting with airlines and eventually starting an airline and then several, and then but still keeping this really tight family unit. And somehow you've been able to do that as well. And is that, that has to be something that you just tapped into as you were growing up?
I think so. And I think my mom just always would talk about, you know, more is more with family and, you know, that's why she had 9 kids. She just believed in that, the joy that brought. And so I never wanted to choose one or the other. My family's very religious and, you know, very gospel-centered family. So it's like I kind of wanted all things, but I had something like inside me I didn't know how to get rid of. So it was just always kind of there, but I didn't know how I would be able to work and do all these things because there were a lot of entrepreneurs in my family, actually. My grandpa's multiple lines, all these entrepreneurs, but not a woman that I knew of. Like the women did great things. My grandma taught at BYU. She wrote books. There were great things, but none of them necessarily had a business at that point. I feel like more now, but I hadn't seen that.
Gotcha. And so as you have this kind of burning desire to do something or start something or just this idea of it, was it always aligned in fashion or design, or is that?
Yeah, actually, so I always loved fashion so much. Like someone I went to high school with, actually, you might know him, Nate Checketts, founder of Roan.
We're gonna have to cut that. We can't talk about Nate Checketts.
You can't?
Oh, jeez.
Do you have a problem with Nate?
No, we love. What are you talking about? We love Nate. We love Nate. I am especially close with his brother Spencer.
Oh, okay.
I love Spencer.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, Spencer does a fantastic job here locally on the radio. If you ever have a chance to listen to him, he's very interesting. But yes,
we know the whole family so well. He was like, you were always drawing dresses on like your math homework and stuff, and I had forgotten about that. And I am like, oh, because he was at New Canaan High School with me, and I totally forgot that I would be sketching little things. But then when it came time to go to college, and I had moved out my senior year of high school, kicking and screaming, like, how could you take me my senior year? and I fell absolutely in love with it. I fell in love with New York. I fell in love with the East Coast, and I ended up going to the Fashion Institute of Technology in Manhattan. And I love design. I love fashion. But I knew like business was like at my core, and that was something so important. So that's why FIT was such an amazing fit for me, because I did a business degree in fashion. And my instructors, all of our professors were, like the CFO of Levi's, and it's all these adjunct professors that just kind of blew my mind. And it was such an amazing experience. But I did have this kind of feeling inside me that I could only work until I had kids. Like that was just always like this underlying feeling that like that was what was, my path and expected of me. And so I finished my schooling in 3 years. I would get permission every semester to take extra credit hours. I was taking like 22 credit hours at one point. I was doing every summer semester. And I wish I didn't rush that fast, because I feel like I could have enjoyed it a little more. I was just like plowing through. And I was working for JetBlue at the time. My job was, helping them in marketing position themselves as a fashion forward airline, which was such a blast. And I was just so crazy busy, because I'm like, I have to graduate as fast as I can, so I have a few years to work before I don't know when I'm going to have a baby.
Kids?
Yeah.
Are you married at this point?
I wasn't yet, but I was married before I graduated.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, to an unbelievable guy.
Yes.
Matt is the best.
He is the best.
I keep trying to take him to lunch, but he's so busy too.
I know. We're just crazy, but keep trying. He'd love it.
Well, I have a bunch of questions about that. I hope I can remember all of these. First of all, you said that you were in school at the Fashion Institute and working for JetBlue and building and trying to build this fashion forward airline. What does that mean, a fashion forward airline?
Yeah, it was so much fun. So Stan Herman, who was the president of the CFDA, the Certified Fashion Designers of America, like the main fashion everything, like it is a big deal, and he designed all of the uniforms for JetBlue, so I got to be in that process. And then they would basically say, we have no budget, but you can go out and barter tickets to get us into anything fashionable that would help with that. So one awesome thing, I flew all the models to a big runway show for Michael Kors, and we had a big presence there. We did a bunch of Fashion Week where we would put tickets like underneath the seat, and we'd have someone come out like they were, or talk on the thing like they were a pilot.
Like this is your captain speaking?
Yeah, they were like, this is your captain speaking. And there's something, when you check into your seats, and there'd be like tickets, and then we would have, before the show started, we would have models walking down in the JetBlue uniforms, like to show them, and like even the baggage handling and the maintenance guy had these super cool like silver bomber jackets. It was really fun. So yeah, a lot of stuff like that, a lot of fashion cosmetic partnerships, and people wanted to be a part of it. It was New York's, we coined it as New York's hometown airline, and free flying was exciting to people. I mean,
absolutely,
it was a good time.
Well, I get to fly fairly regularly, and I do, now that you mention it, I do appreciate when the staff and the flight attendants and like they look like they're well put together.
Yeah, I do too.
It makes for a nice experience.
It does. It should be professional. I mean, they have very strict like guidance they have to follow, so, and I think that goes with what you're presenting yourself as. But
you decided not to stay with JetBlue.
Yeah, I always knew that was a time, and it was such a fun time. It was so new, and I got to go and open all the new cities, and we would go to all the big events, baseball games, everything, and share. And it was just like, when it was new, I mean, there's no more time I would want to be there. We were launching new cities. I remember I'd be like, have you ever heard of JetBlue? People would say no. I'm like, it's a new airline, and these are the cities. And it was like brand spanking new. And I had like, great friends I got to bring on with me, living in Manhattan, and it was a blast. But I knew, that was not my long term. But then also, be on the inside of what my dad was creating was really awesome.
Okay, so I think this really interesting thing is that you have this sense for fashion, but you really have a foundation in a business, this business background, and that's where you wanted to focus. Okay, so what are the lessons? What are the lessons that you learned on the business side, working in that kind of startup capacity with JetBlue?
Oh, I mean, so much. It was, there was an amazing team of people, but there was a lot of trial and error and number crunching and figuring out what works and what doesn't. And I was in the marketing department. So I learned about, sharing and branding and the importance of that. And, when you go out there, who are you and how are you going to get this across? Because an airline had very clear parameters at the time. I feel like it was like, the Delta is United. Now, how can we be cool and how can we be stylish? And and it worked, and it was fun to watch everybody do this, but it was such a good lesson to learn on you can brand yourself on who you want to be. Just because you're an airline doesn't mean you have to be like these legacy carriers in every way to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay, so what was the transition then from JetBlue to, I know you had a couple other things before.
I graduated college. I worked for Giorgio Armani for a while in marketing, the New York office. And then I worked for Diane von Furstenberg, and she was a huge part of.
I was going to ask, would you say outside of maybe the growing up experience you had being in this entrepreneurial family, was working with Diane maybe the most influential?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
She is like my
that.
muse. So the company, when I came on, she had just was buying back all of her licenses and rebuilding the company. And it was I just look back at that, like I was dropped into that at the most perfect time for myself and what was going on. So it was this studio in the meatpacking district. It was a building, but we call it the design studio. And where I was sitting, I was actually in sales and marketing, and to the right of me, I could see the whole design. Across like the open area that we'd look down into the showroom was PR, production, accounting, and we were it was pretty small. It was just like a couple of people in each team, and I just got to see how the whole thing worked. But honestly, the thing that I even took the most of, even though there was so much I gathered from those years there, was Diane had an apartment on the very top floor of the building. And we would come through in her yoga clothes. Her grandkids were running around. Her kids would come in and be like, hey, what's up? What's going on? And talk to us. And they were a part of it. And it just was this eye-opener. I can have it all. Like, look at her. She's still doing this. And she's a grandma. And her kids are so integrated. And her grandkids, this is so beautiful to me.
That's amazing. There's a New York Times article. I haven't been able to read the whole thing, but it sounds like she is quite a character.
She is.
Like a big personality.
She is. She's done a lot, and she sees things different than other people. Yeah. And she just gets to the heart of the issue, and she just doesn't care. She just does things her way, and it's really cool. She would, just whatever some of the things she would say be a little off the cuff or whatever. But I loved it. I was pretty taken by her and what she had created and how she had done it. I mean, she was really young when she created the wrap dress.
Yes, I was going to mention that's her iconic.
Yes. And she was really young, and then, she sold all these licenses and then brings it all back. And this team she's building when she's older and doing it all again. And it was so much fun. I mean, I was part of so many things from, sales. I wasn't involved in the design at Diane von Furstenberg, but I was a liaison for a while between all the international, everything that's going on, Saks Dubai to, showrooms we had to independent Diane von Furstenberg stores, all internationally, which was such a good learning experience. But yeah, I just look back. So when I graduated from FIT, I had an offer to go into the buying program at Bloomingdale's. Or go work for Diane von Furstenberg. And everyone was like, you got into the buying program at Bloomingdale's? That's amazing. Like, why wouldn't you take that? But when I went to meet with Diane, I was like, oh no, I'm going here. Like, she speaks my language.
Oh, that's one of the inflection points. You picked the right
Yes.
You picked the right path. Not that you wouldn't be successful
It
going
would be
the other way.
but I don't think I would have had those aha moments there.
So how did you did you apply for something? How did you get dropped into that scenario?
Into Diane?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did. I went and I applied there, and I knew someone who knew her. So I just said, hey, I would love to, work for this company. And then it was her husband. I knew someone that had met. So he said, will you meet with this girl? She's really excited about you. So I got to interview with her personally, which was huge. And I just remember walking into like her office off her private apartment, and just like my jaw was on the ground, like, this is the coolest thing. And I had lived in New York for a while, but her world was amazing to me. Like, I was like, this is what I like. This feels so good to me. It's just awesome.
How long were you there?
I was there 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in those 3 years, now you worked for Armani previous?
It was a short stint right at then, kind of like an internship that turned into something, but it didn't feel like the long term
Gotcha.
for me. So I really wanted to, so then I said, okay, what's this going to be? And I was looking around, and that was where I went. And then actually Matt, my husband, he was working at a business, and he was still in school, and he was starting to take it over as a sports training facility in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. And he was like, oh my gosh, I have all this on my plate. And he was playing college football, and I just felt this pull to leave DVF and go and build this with him, which was hard, but it felt so right at the time. And there too, I mean, we were like 20, I don't know, we were in our early 20s and mid 20s, and we were building this business together.
Okay, there's 2 questions that came out of that. One is your husband wasn't just playing college football. He was playing college football at...
He was at Fordham at the time, Fordham University.
And why? And well, if you're a college football fan, you know why Fordham is so special in college football, because Vince Lombardi.
Yes, Vince Lombardi.
Yes.
Yes.
One of the great books of all time, Vince Lombardi. I mean, I feel like we should have like a moment of silence.
Vince
was Lombardi.
It was a cool legacy and amazing campus. And Matt had played at the U a year. Mm-hmm. And then we just decided, okay, well, we're just going to be long distance until we both graduate college, and then we'll get married. Because he's like, I'm loving what I'm doing at the U. I'm like, I'm not leaving New York. Like, I was halfway through my fashion program when I was like 2.5 years in. We decided we were going to get married, but we're going to wait 4 years apparently, because I wasn't leaving New York and he just started. And that didn't work out, obviously, to wait 4 years. So in 6 months, he transferred, and we were newlyweds in Manhattan, and it was the coolest, most fun thing ever.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so you decide now to leave Diane, this unbelievable experience, and start running this.
Yeah, with Matt. And it was the first time I had ever dealt with employees. We had to, make payroll. We had to, do all the marketing, learning new systems for the business and certifications for trainers. It was just a whole new world, and we were doing it together, which was really cool. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was a huge learning experience, and it was hard. It was really hard. So we did that for a while until I had my first Samuel, and I tried to keep helping after that, but it wasn't working out very well. So I just decided, okay, now's the time I'm a stay-at-home mom. So
you had your first child.
Mm-hmm, okay. This is me. I was 26, and this is me. I'm a stay-at-home mom now. And about the time Samuel was a year old, it was like my wheels were turning, and like, crap, I don't think I can, I want to just be so content and happy, and this is my most important role, which it is. But something else was kind of like brewing inside me.
So Matt mentioned that you rarely sit still, and like you don't want to sit and watch a movie. And
poor Matt.
He
loves movies. I just need to be better.
Listen, I like to watch movies too. So if Matt needs a stand-in,
yes,
I mean, I'll bring the popcorn.
I'm always like, you should go to a movie with Jeff, our brother-in-law, and he's just like, no, I want to go with you. And then, but it's just like I love doing fun things with people, but I feel like it's quality time. Like I would much rather go to an amazing dinner with him than go to a movie, because I feel like then we're talking. I just feel like in a movie, it's for my personal entertainment, but I want to use that time to really be with the person instead of just in quiet silence.
Now you make me feel bad about watching movies.
No, everyone but me.
I'm
but
so selfish.
No, it's not that at all. But it's like I have 6 kids, 17 to 4, and there's always so much more I'm behind with work and everything. So I'm just starting to itch when I'm sitting there. Like I have the biggest list to do. I gotta go.
I hear you. Okay, so have you been this whole time that we've been talking about? Have you been thinking about fashion, apparel, or have shoes just been kind of on your mind the whole time? How did you land in shoes, in footwear?
So that's an interesting question. So Samuel's like a year old, and I'm trying to figure out, I'm going to do something. I want to do something. And I'm trying to, nail that down. What sounds like, what I've learned and my skills and everything. And I'm trying to just like kind of go through a bunch of stuff. And I knew it was going to be in fashion. And it was the time of like, I don't know if they had actually gotten big yet, but there were companies like Layers and Shabby Apple and Shade shirts. And I didn't want to be coined as like the modest clothing company. I didn't want that to be like my lane, but I also didn't want to create things that I wasn't going to wear. And so I was kind of grappling with this, and then I was like, shoes. There's no rules for shoes. I can do anything I want. I'm like, I'm very religious. I was like, I'm gonna be true to myself with whatever I create. So I decided shoes, and I had learned about footwear in school, but I didn't. It's its own animal. It is so much more in depth than I knew at the time. I started traveling and going to factories. I spent some time in Brazil in factories. I went to a lot of shows. I just started researching footwear like crazy. And I actually came up with this concept back then that now I see it's just come out, where it's basically like a heel goes to a flat. And I worked on it for a couple of years. But I just didn't have the funding and the capacity really in the factory partners to get that technology and the molds and everything I needed to really make that great. So after a couple of years of really working on this, and it was way more in depth than just that. And I still do some of the parts of it where you have a piece of fur that comes on and off, or a big embellishment. So I'd still do some of those pieces that were part of that whole concept. So I was just like, you know what? I've just learned a ton about footwear, and I just don't feel confident enough in this whole new concept. And stores didn't really want to do it. They felt like it was a little too complicated, retail. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just go. I'm just going to do it. So I had a partner in the beginning, my friend Tiffany, her husband, Sean Nelson of Lovesack. Are really close friends.
Yeah.
And Sean was instrumental in introducing us to factories and helping us find people. But he saw me just like researching and working and trying to figure out these things. He's like, you just need to get a container of shoes and you need to get going. And I'm like, okay, you're right. And that was kind of like the kick in the pants I needed. So then I just, I'm like, I'm going to just make the most fun, make women feel good, beautiful, high quality shoes that are luxury at an attainable price. And that became my whole, mindset. And I moved and I started going.
Okay. And so did you design the shoe?
Yeah.
You did the whole thing?
Yeah. So I didn't have a designer or anyone for a long time. I had some private contractors come on and off. And every time I'd be like, let me just see it. I'll just do it myself. And I would kind of redo everything. I had someone help me, amazing with, there's so much to it with kind of the detailing and the sourcing and the technician side of it. So that was great that I had some work with me. I've had some great people from Camuto Group. Camuto Group was in Greenwich in Connecticut, which was the next town over. I was in Darien. And Camuto Group was Tory Burch, Jessica Simpson, Lucky Brand, like so many brands. So I was able to get some people from there that taught me a lot about like the whole technical side, because footwear is very complicated actually. Like when I was like, shoes, they're so fun.
Yeah.
Let's do shoes. I had no idea what I was getting into. Yeah, it was a world of learning, and I can finally say like I can work with a technician and do a great fit and all, I know all the different materials that are going to feel good and not. And people say to me all the time, your shoes look so good. I had no idea they'd feel so good on my feet. It's like, because that's a whole nother level.
Yeah.
That's-
Well, shoes are very difficult and important. And like, I kind of consider myself a shoe guy. I don't know if I'm really a shoe guy, but I kind of consider myself that. I think the moment you put your foot into a quality shoe, you know it.
Yeah,
And you
it's
walk
true.
around and you know it.
It's true.
And the minute you put your foot into a lower quality piece of footwear, it's
Well,
like,
I'm so glad you
I'm
can say that.
never going to wear
Because
that again.
A lot of people, I feel like they don't try the quality, and then they just think that other thing is normal, you know? And I'm like, guys, that plastic, it doesn't mold to your foot. It doesn't feel good. You don't have memory foam in there. It's like you're wearing a plastic bag. Like, go try this. And as much as my shoes might seem like a higher price point to some, we're about $165 to $295. You actually get what you pay for. And mine,
No doubt.
if I did, I know there are companies that charge much more than me that cut a lot of corners and don't have the same quality.
Well, and on the other side of that, there are plenty of shoe brands that charge a lot, but the quality is not.
It's amazing to me what a brand name they can get away with. I'm like, wait a minute here. That's not fair. You are selling someone. I know what you're doing. So anyway.
So okay, so what was your first? Wait, did you come out with one shoe initially, or did you come out with a line?
I came out with a line.
Okay.
I came out with a line. Yeah, I just started going to trade shows because I didn't have I couldn't just go buy a bunch of shoes without any orders behind it. I needed some orders. And it was really good to kind of get feedback from buyers and things like that. Like there's a lot of just direct to consumer shoe brands these days and hats off to them. But for me, I needed to go the market route. And I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I have multiple revenue streams now. And I'm not just D2C and I'm not just wholesale.
Yeah.
But I was able to learn a lot on that process of wholesale right at the beginning. Like I know a lot of people start D2C and then they consider going into wholesale, but I was the other way around. And yeah, so I just remember that first show, I just kind of put it all on the line. And I got a double booth, which was way more than I could afford. And we had, trying to like make a splash, we had this huge display we had made. And it was a big window from the knees down. And we had a model walking in there with different shoes. So you just walk by and see this huge window with just like feet, like doing catwalks back and forth. Yeah. And it did. It drew a lot of people in. And they'd be like, can you try this one on in the box? And we did that for a lot of shows. But I also remember being super discouraged. Oh. It was hard not being a brand name at a show like that. It was really hard. While we kind of had like the fun, like flashy come see us, it takes a lot of time to build. And they, even now, like we go to a new show, it takes a few times for people that's the show they go to and buy, to see you there, to talk to you. And now people have heard of us. They see us in other stores, things like that. It's easier. But I remember just walking up down the halls like, am I done? Is this it? Like, I got like a few stupid orders. What am I going to do? Like, I don't even know what to do. Like, I was so like discouraged. And I just thought, oh yeah, we're just going to have all these papers out and it's just going to be amazing.
Everyone's going to, yeah.
Yeah. And that was like my first lesson of, like people don't invest in you if they have no like reason to yet.
Okay. I want to follow up on, don't let me forget. I want to follow up on that piece. Because this adversity, I keep wanting to say adversary, this adversity that you had to overcome early on. You had this grand plan and people didn't buy it and whatever. Okay. But first I wanted to ask you about what was the strategy in your first line of shoes that you came out with? I mean, were you looking for well, I'll just ask you that. What was the strategy?
Well, I was just hoping that, I'd go out there with these shoes and everyone loved them and all these big stores would come flocking. And I remember my dad saying, well, how do you know they're going to buy your stuff? I'm like, oh, because I have really cute stuff. Like, it's going to be great.
That's what I want to ask you about. Like, what was in the design? What did you decide in the design that people would like?
Yeah,
did you have to do like a bunch of market research, or did you just?
I did the same trend stuff. A lot of what I do now, I've got more in depth with it now. But yeah, I mean, I just did all the watch the runways, what's on the streets of different cities. And I was living in New York, so I feel like that's like you're on the forefront of a lot of that. And I honestly just designed a bunch of stuff I liked. I was just like, okay, well, this is cute. I want to do it, and got to start somewhere. And I can't even think of it now, but usually there's like a kind of a vibe of each collection. But my girl she's very feminine, but she has an edge. So kind of beautiful. Flowers are big for us, but so are like studs and big zippers. Like she likes to, feel beautiful and pretty, but she also like has a little bit of, a tough side.
Yeah.
So, that was kind of the beginning of all that. And also so much of what I design, and starting with that first collection actually had to do with influence my grandma had. So my grandma, my grandma and grandpa traveled all over the world. They were gone more than half the time sometimes, but they started taking us grandkids on trips with them. So when I was like in third grade, I went all over Europe with them, and I got horrible grades in third grade. That was the best learning I could have ever got.
Sure.
But my grandma would go to all these really cool local jewelers, and some of it was nice and expensive, and some of it was just really cool, eclectic, fun stuff. And she would always be like covered in it and wearing it and bring it back for us. And it was so much inspiration to me as I grew up. It's like, I love a little piece of bling that's going to just make it special and unique and different. So that was part of one of the pieces that right from the beginning, I had some of that influence.
Got you. Okay. Let me follow up on that. In your designs, it feels like you have a story for your shoes, and and the type of individual that would be attracted to this particular style. Okay, so was that your story out of the box, or has that story developed over time?
It's definitely developed over time. It definitely has, and even as being a mother, it's developed because I want to always have everything that I really know and wear. And not saying everything is my favorite shoe, because I am, being mindful of my customer and what's missing in the market and all those trends and things. But I want to be able to wear it. And I always say, okay, well, I'm not chasing 6 kids in all of the outfits I'm wearing, but I want to be comfortable and real. I don't want to be miserable. I don't want to be tiptoeing around just waiting to get to the next chair or, get in the car either. So comfort has played more of a role in the last few years, for sure.
Gotcha. Okay, so going back to this time, you went to your first several shows and people weren't buying as much, and you're feeling a little discouraged. What are the lessons that you learned in that time, and how did you overcome some of this? Maybe self-doubt.
Yeah, it was a lot of self-doubt. It was just like kind of a slap in the face of reality. That you don't just pay a ton of money to show up to a show and come up with like a cute like idea. And even if the shoes are absolutely beautiful, it's just not enough. Like you just have to just keep going and hitting the pavement. And as I got going, I just felt like everything I was doing got better too, because I was, talking to people and creating better products and making better connections, and the next show I got a better place. But it's been many years. It's been a lot of work. And if I had known back then how long it would have taken me to be here, I'm glad I didn't know. I don't know if I would have like stuck it out, especially how discouraged I was in the very, very beginning. Honestly, it's just, you just keep fighting and pushing. And sometimes I think some people's the smartest person in the room. But it's definitely not me, and that's not my path. My path is constantly learning and bettering myself to better my company and build a better product, a better brand, and just that grit. I had this crazy time where this person I had hired to kind of oversee the shoes through the whole production development process. Like we would come up with everything I wanted, and we would detailing all the colors, the trims, the buckles, all the linings, everything together. And then she would follow it through the factories. And that's when I stopped doing travel to all the factories. It was like I had 3 kids. I was traveling till I had 3 multiple times a year. And then we had a parting that was kind of tough, and she wasn't happy with it. So while that was all happening, she basically wasn't doing any of the work I thought she had done up until that point. And she deleted all of our drives and everything. And I had this huge appointment I was so excited about with Anthropologie. And it was like, this was my chance with Anthropologie. We had showed to them one time before and they were testing the brand. And this was like, okay, now what do you got? We're like in. And I had nothing. So I still remember on my kitchen counter, had someone there from my company come over, and my head of sales, who's still with me, he's like my right arm to everything. And we were just like brainstorming, what are we going to do? So I had recently gone to the city and to New York, and I had gone through the fashion district, and I was very inspired by, always am, by like jewels and embellishments. And I had just bought a ton of stuff in all the trimming shops and costume jewelry places. And I had this big bag of stuff. And I just said, okay, well, we're just gonna create it right now, right here. So I brought up all of our bestsellers and all of our samples. And because they hadn't really been with us very long, they didn't know about a bunch of older stuff that had been really good. So we're sitting there with needle and thread and fishing line, and we're just like going for it. And my son was like, my second son, Eli, was 9 years old at the time. And he's like, Mom, I think 2 of these earrings would look cool on this shoe. It was like a bestseller before. So he's over there sewing it, and that was the shoe. They totally was like a winner.
Really?
I'm like, Eli knew what he was doing, I guess. But it was just this time of like, what do? Do we call them and say we don't have samples? Do we just like, show them old stuff? It's like it had to be cool and fresh and new. They were expecting something great. So we just created, we cut straps off Mary Jane's, and we literally like became our own sample room that night and into the night, and created everything for the appointment.
That's amazing. And
it was awesome. They totally went for it. They totally went for it. They're not listening. Yeah. And it was like holding our breath. They've been an amazing partner, honestly. They're awesome.
That's an amazing story. As you look back across this, you just mentioned that, had you what you know now, you may not have gone down this path, this experience. Are you still like excited, engaged in the shoe market? Do you still feel this desire every day, or do you want to do something else?
I do feel this desire, and I haven't always, to be totally honest. There have been some lulls, especially, with being a mom with the kids up all night. And it wasn't like I wasn't thinking I don't want to do this anymore, but yeah, I kind of lose that, like this fire. But I kept pushing through it. And maybe some of those times I wasn't shining as bright as I should have. And I've had an awesome team, like people are small, but they've held me up. And I'm to this place now. My baby is 4. This is my first year. I've got kids all in school. I mean, she's half day, but I'll take it. But it has been this kind of renewed kind of side of me, which has been good. Like, I always could do it all, but I would do stupid things. Like we have a meeting every day at 9 a.m. And I look back at like 2 years ago, I'm like, oh my gosh, my team is so forgiving of me. I can't believe how many meetings I just didn't get on. Like, because I would be like, oh my gosh, it's 9:30. And I'd be sitting there's my baby. And it was just crazy. And they were so like patient and forgiving of me. And then I'd be like, okay, we all need to meet now in an hour. And I was just like all over the place. And they would, fly into town, and we do these big events, and they'd be like staying at my house and eating dinner with my crazy family, and I'd be working, and I have a kid on my lap, and they've put up with so much. But now it's amazing. Things are happening. We added handbags last year, and we've had some real winners, which has been great. Launching into apparel this spring, going into Dillard's. So excited about that. So it's a good time. Like, actually, a few months ago, I was driving, and just some exciting things were happening, and I just felt that, that passion and fire. And I'm like, I do love this. I love this so much. But there have been times where it hasn't felt quite that good.
Yeah, but you kind of pushed through it.
Yeah, I kind of had to. Like, I was in a place where it's like, well, what am I going to do? Like, I'm not in a place where I would sell this and get anything what I feel like I would want to. And I'm not just going to give up and let go. So I had to. It was like my own pride wouldn't just let go.
Yeah. You mentioned something earlier. Have you read the book on Elon Musk that's out right now?
No.
It's fascinating.
Okay, I need to.
And I'm just listening to it. There was one part in that book that you reminded me because you said you were working with a designer early on and you looked at the designs and you were like, I think I'm just going to redo this.
Yeah, I'm just over the lines.
Yeah, well, Elon Musk has done that several times. It's kind of different because he's doing it with like coding.
Oh, yeah.
Really, building rockets and stuff.
Amazing.
And he just takes it over. He's like, I'm just going to redo this.
Thanks, but no thanks.
So you're kind of like, the Elon Musk.
Well, I just heard that story. A story about Elon Musk where when they took over Twitter and they said, like, we can't make this big change because of the servers and the location. And he was trying to make all these changes. And he said he was like on a plane with two of his cousins who are like engineers. And they're like, let's just go do it ourselves. We don't need to wait for a whole team. And he flipped the plane around and he went and then manually shut the whole thing down, moved it. I'm like, yeah, that's what we all need. It's like sometimes we just get so caught up in it. Just go do it.
At some point, you just have to go do it. Well, I think people get stuck.
Yeah.
In like there's you overthink it. Like if I do this and if it fails and if it doesn't work out this way and you just get
I know. And there's a lot of
how
voices.
do you get over that?
Listening to people and getting stuck. I mean, I honestly think maybe my problem is a little the opposite. Sometimes I just keep going to the point where it's like, Ashley's time to move
People
on.
are like,
no, just like, yeah. So I had this boot. It was like amazing bestseller. It was killing it. And I'm like, I need more of them. But to get it from our factory, we usually do, it's, 30 days production for a reorder, 30 days on the water for shipping. But we have factories also in Brazil, and we airship everything from there. So I'm like, I'm going to take the same design I've done in the factory in China, and I'm going to move it to Brazil. And then it will be here in 30 days. I'm going to start pre-selling these. I'm going to buy a ton of them. So I just, I think I'm just going to figure everything out. And I went and pushed this order, and I pushed them super hard and gave them a super tight deadline, and it was a complicated boot.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but had this, okay, so you were manufacturing somewhere else and you decided to take it to Brazil because you could get it here quicker.
30 days or like 35 days versus 60 days.
And is this a manufacturer you were familiar with?
Yes.
You'd worked with in the past?
This is somebody, but had not done this boot.
Okay.
And this boot was complicated. It was this big, heavy, like platform wedge, and the counter of the shoe, which is where your heel goes, it wraps around. It was kind of a complicated thing, and it's an almond toe, and it has to all be done right, and it has a lot of stretch so you can pull it on. And I just like thought, oh, it's fine. They're really good. We're gonna figure it out. We'll get a sample. Anyway, the shoes all come. They're pre-ordered like crazy. We've already sold so many of them, so we start shipping them out. And they all start coming back. And we can't walk in the shoe. Our heel just pulls out when we're walking. Like, wait, what? No, we had to sample everything. We had gone through the process really quickly, too quickly, and I probably pushed too hard. And so I tried to do everything. I was like on calls with the factory. Can you send us a piece to and we'll figure out how to glue it in the counter and the heel. And I was talking to every cobbler in New York about getting all these shoes there and having them try to fix them. And I was just pounding the pavement. I'm going to figure this out. I'm not going to lose all this. There's all this cash I just thrown in there kind of crazy and fast. And finally someone on my team just looked at me like, you really will never stop, will you? And at that point I was kind of like, okay, I'm making everybody crazy and nothing is coming from this. I just need to just swallow it and move on and stop fighting so hard.
So what did you do? We
just dumped them. We had to let it go. We couldn't wear them.
Oh no.
It was a sad thing. It was sad. Like usually in any kind of circumstance, if it's not perfect, we love to donate. We love to do anything, but you could not walk in
There
them.
was nothing
There was
you could
nothing
do with that.
we could do.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Are you still manufacturing that boot?
Yes. Yes.
It's
in the original factory. Yeah. It was great from always in the original factory because it was complicated. And when I rushed it with someone else, it wasn't. But yeah, it's our Gemma boot. It still does awesome. It's a great boot.
Okay. So how would you correct that if you had that experience? Same thing.
Honestly,
very, very popular thing. You have a better opportunity.
I've had to be faced with this several times since then, actually. I just cannot throw something from one factory to another and do it so fast. I've had to just say, that's not my business or my industry, and I'm not there to oversee it in that country, in that factory. So I need to go through the the process steps. And I learned just you can't take shortcuts with something with people are walking in.
Yeah, and you're a quality brand. I mean, I think that's what people will generally say. I've read the reviews. People will generally say like the quality and the fit.
Yeah.
And if you have a miss on that,
it's bad. It's bad. And I mean, we still had all the beautiful leathers and all the, you know, there's hardware on it. It was still beautiful. But yeah, they didn't, the boot doesn't have a lot of bend when it walks, so it has to kind of move in a certain way, and it was just too complicated. So there's been a few times that I have like, oh, I just want to do that. I'm like, don't do it, Ashley. Just don't do it. Like, it's just too risky.
Yeah.
You know?
I know you have a great relationship with Matt, and I was telling you before we started, he sent me a note about you. I was just digging in about some things I should know before we did this recording, and I'm not kidding. He sent me this paragraph that could not have been more kind and more complimentary. And how is he? What kind of support is he in your business? Do you lean on him? Do you discuss what's going on? Do you guys work together in the?
Yeah. So he's the most amazing support. I don't know if any husband would put up with all the craziness I am doing and all this stuff, and he's running his own business. Like, we're not doing this business together. We do our own things. And but we both work from home, and our teams are all over the place. But I feel like he is like my team member in terms of, sometimes I just need to talk it out with him. And Matt is so good about talking to people and just not just, but he explains, break it down like this to them. Like, he's really good about simplifying, and he connects with people so well. But also, sometimes we'll just like, can you just read this email? Does this make sense? Am I getting my point across? Like, and there's that. And when we both started working from home during COVID, it was the first time he'd worked from home too. I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this. This is kind of crazy. And he was always planning on getting an office. And he would like walk in, and I like, do my way I eat is very kind of weird to him. We're both about the same after a certain hour of the day, but I have like my lemon water, my celery juice, and then I have like an apple, and then I like start using, it's just like, and he'll walk in and I'm on my apple, and he's like, what's for lunch? And I'm just like, what's for lunch? And he will eat Indian food at 7 a.m. Like, we're just so different. Yes.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. Like, we'll have like leftovers, and he's heating it up, like, and I smell it, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I was just like, oh my gosh, how is this going to work? But now, like, I cannot imagine it any different. Like, I don't know what I'd do if he wasn't there all day. Like, it's just like having him there, even when he goes, like, for, he travels to New York or something, I'm kind of like, dang, my, like, buddy over there, my team member. It's not my husband, but he's my team member in the day.
Oh, that's great. Well, I mean, it would be hard to be as successful without that kind of camaraderie with your partner. That's great.
I don't know how I would do it.
He's a great guy. I love that guy. And that's a good story. I have a different view of Matt right now eating tikka masala at 7 a.m.
He likes like the really spicy, like lamb vindaloo. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my eyes are burning.
I wish I could eat more like you. It sounds like, and it sounds like you kind of graduate into this day of eating. So you start, can we do that really? Let's do this really quickly. How do you start your day?
Oh, like, you mean
your eating day? How does this? Yeah.
Well, I just try to drink like a lot of water when I first wake up.
Okay.
You're super dehydrated when you first wake up.
And you know what's really crazy? If I drink water when I first wake up, it makes me sick to my stomach.
Really?
Yes.
Well, it's probably because you're dehydrated, and that's why. Because you're dehydrated, you're kind of nauseous.
Well, that's how I feel.
Yeah, and like that gross taste in your mouth. That's like your body's been detoxing all night. So you have to like rinse it all out. So I do that, and then I do lemon.
Is this in? You do
lemon water.
In hot water?
I know like warm is good. I usually am just running out the door to like take my kids to school. So I just squeeze lemon in my water.
Okay.
And then I always try to wait like 30 minutes at least, but I don't need to worry about it because I'm just usually running around. And then I used to do celery juice every day. Now I do like 5 days at a time, and just make sure I keep it in glass in the fridge. And that's been working great.
Do you make your own celery juice?
Always, yeah.
You have like a juicer?
Yeah, so it's been helpful not to do it every day because it's a process, but I just feel so much better. And the reason why I started doing that is because I was getting sick all the time. I was just running my body into the ground too much. I got so sick for a long time. My blood pressure was so low. I went to a doctor and she's like, this whole team of doctors I have now looking at your blood work and everything, and the only thing we can come up with is that you've run your body into the ground and you need to like really heal your body. And I was just running on empty all the time.
Yeah.
I was just up all night, with kids, working with factories till 1 a.m. on a different time zone and then up again. And it was just too much. So the celery, I feel like I just picked up anything. So the celery juice, I feel like just would detoxing me and keeping me clean. And I didn't get sick for years. Like it was amazing.
Really?
Yeah, it's been really good. And then, then I waited at least 30 minutes up to an hour. And then I know this is so against what people are doing now with like the green goddess, but you have to do what feels good to you. This feels good to me.
Absolutely.
And then I have an apple, and then I wait a little while, and then I would love to start with a big salad after that. But usually by then I'm like, I need something hot and good. And I just like plow like pasta or whatever we had the night before.
Is that when you get the Indian food?
Yeah, that's when I get the Indian food. That's when I'm like, I'm ready. I want something hearty and like a big like carby sandwich or something.
Yeah.
So I can only be good till I can be good, and then I'm done.
Gotcha. That's fascinating. I'll have to try the celery.
It's really good.
Does it taste good?
Yeah. I mean, there's some that are more bitter than others. I like the Costco organic. It's pre-cleaned, pre-trimmed. It's fast. My 3-year-old drinks with me every day, and
Really?
she's like, "This is good, Mom. This celery juice is sweet." She said yesterday. So
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And is it just celery? Water?
just celery. You can't even have a drop of water. You can't wash your container and have it drop. Celery is actually a medicinal herb. So it goes through and just like detoxes and cleans. It's so good for your liver and everything. And it will make you a little sick at first when you start, because it's detoxing you and cleansing you.
Okay.
So just be ready. So don't start with like 32 ounces a day or something.
Okay.
You start with like 8.
I don't want to get all down the path on this now, but now you have me fascinated with celery water. Can you get celery water commercially, or do you have to make it?
Most of the nutrients are dead by the time you could get, the part that you really want. It has these, and obviously this is crazy, but these salts, has these special salts that are on the fibers of the celery that are what go through and just like clean and make you feel so much better. When I first started seeing what a difference this was making for me, we were going to the Bahamas, going to, I think, Atlantis, and I packed my huge juicer in my suitcase, and I went to a local grocery store, and I got celery, and I was juicing it in the bathroom. Like, that's how much it was, like, helping me, because I was sick. Like, it got to the point I'd have a big event or something important I was supposed to go to, and I'd be like, oh, I hope I'm not sick. So I feel like it was a godsend for me. It's what I needed.
Gotcha. Okay. We'll get back to business now.
Yes.
That was a good aside. Usually I like to do like 3 random questions.
It was a random one.
That's pretty random. I had this other one. We may or may not use this.
Okay.
Jared, we'll see how this goes. I was thinking you went to the Fashion Institute of Technology, correct? Mm-hmm. In New York. Mm-hmm. But they don't have any athletics teams. I mean, like your husband and I would be much more aligned on the athletic team side. But I was thinking, man, if they had an athletic team, how about those uniforms? Like, could you imagine
they would be really
designing?
Awesome. They would be. I mean, we actually.
Could you outdo what Oregon does?
Oh, it would be so good. No, sometimes I love Oregon. Sometimes I'm like, what is going on? They get your attention though. But we were back there. I was speaking at FIT, I don't know, a year ago or something. And Matt, we were getting this tour of like the renovation, and we went into the bookstore, and Matt was like, you guys are FIT. He's saying this to like all the top people at the school. He's like, can you get some better like school merch? And he's kind of reprimanding them. And he was right. Like, this is like the same thing at every school.
Yeah, just regular college gear.
Yeah,
like
I don't know.
The crappy sweatshirt that says FIT.
Yeah, it totally was. I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe that's what college kids, you want something quintessential. But that it would be amazing to see what they came up with. The fashion shows they would do with the student body, and they have an incredible museum with the archives. Such cool stuff there. There's lots of other cool things to see.
Yeah, outside of the lack of a football team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. Do you have a favorite team, by the way? Or do you follow any of the local?
Yeah. I mean,
Utah
I
colleges?
followed the Utah, like the Utes, my whole life. My mom's brother, Danny Vrains, played Utah basketball, and I think
Wait a second. Your mom's brother
Yes.
is Danny Vrains? I had no idea that was also a connection.
Yeah, he's amazing. He did our whole home remodel too. He moved back, jack of all trades now. He's great. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, so I think my family has had like season tickets since then, but that's actually how my dad and my mom met. My dad was the ball boy for the Utah basketball team.
Absolutely.
And my great grandma, my mom's grandma, was like, "You're so cute." They were in Arizona on an away game. She said, "You should meet my granddaughter." So always been, and my dad went to Utah, and yeah, so we've always been big Utah fans. But we have not been the Utah fans that are BYU haters ever, especially living out of Utah for 22 years. Like you're just like happy to have any Utah team do well. And then my cousin starts playing for BYU, then we're like, okay, now we really got to get on board a little more. But yeah, of course, Utah is like our team, but we just love seeing Utah teams succeed.
Absolutely. Well, the cousin we're talking about, of course, is Zach Wilson, now in the NFL, and another cousin who's playing for the University of Utah, Isaac Wilson, who I got to cover
and I
quite
have
a bit.
another cousin at the U who's doing amazing. He's just a freshman, Jackson Benny. He had some amazing plays on special teams this year.
Wow,
He's going to be one to watch. He's my mom's sister's son.
That is amazing. Wait, you have all of this athletic background in your family. Was that ever part of your...
I switched schools after my family decided not to move to Dallas. My parents were really into the amazing schools in Texas. So they took me out of the school I was in and put us at Waterford. And I did volleyball and basketball there, and it was really fun. And I did dance all growing up too. But when I decided to go back to the public high school, I was just too intimidated. And my parents, as amazing as they are, I was the oldest, and they were really busy with little kids. They were never the parents that were like, "There's a tryout this day. I'm going to call the school and find out what it was." And it wasn't like the internet where things were always like, being emailed and popping up. You had to like do a little research. Yeah, I remember I wanted to play soccer in like 5th grade, and I asked my friend if she could get the form from her coach at practice, and I brought it to my parents. Like, I filled everything out. Could you sign the bottom and give me a check? Like, that's just kind of like, I made a lot of my own orthodontist appointments. Like, my parents were great, but I was a doer, and I could see that if I waited on them, things were going to take longer.
Wow. That's quite a personality trait that comes through.
It's an oldest kid thing.
Is that what it is?
I think so.
The red oldest kid thing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I want to transition to some of the things, the lessons that you've learned, and maybe you could share some of that with the audience. Like, what are as you look back on, we've talked about kind of leading up to where you are today, and looking back on all of these experiences, like, what are the best things that you've done? What are the lessons that you've learned over all this time? And as you look back, what are the things that you would say, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do it that way again.
Yeah. Honestly, I've been thinking a lot about, the hard things and the trials lately. And, because as you grow, you kind of think, oh, once I get to there, it's going to be easier. Actually, no, it just feels heavier and bigger. But it's good, because it's really hard things for really good things to happen. And Matt said to one of our kids the other day, he's like, they were complaining about how hard something was, and he's like, the obstacle is the way. And I've heard that so many times, but it just like hit me in the head, where it was like, okay, where I used to think you have to, work really hard to get a client. Now I just kind of started thinking about it, going, okay, I had to learn all of this over here to be ready to be in this store, where I think, I wasn't ready for some things to happen that were happening, and they didn't always go so well, where sometimes just really bad things would happen, and how to handle that. We finally worked forever to become a Nordstrom all-door brand, and that happened March of 2020. It was killer. We got an email one day, and they said, anything that has not arrived to the warehouse, we are canceling. We are not taking it, and we are canceling all future orders. And we had already made everything. So I learned so much in that experience. Luckily, one big shipment had just arrived to the warehouse the day before, and they told us it hadn't, and we tracked it and it had. But I had to go back to all my factories, and I had to negotiate with them how much is this material? What are you going to help me with? How are we going to remain partners? This is hard for everyone. And that negotiation brought us a lot closer, that partner, because they knew there were a lot of brands just totally stiffing their factories at that point during COVID. But we went through and we said, look, we're going to use this material. This, like, will you just give us this for cost? You know, and that whole negotiation world has actually prepared me for these much bigger things I'm doing now.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about material costs. I learned a lot about, you know, how long all these things, because they went through everything and why this is so hard for them. But it was such a good experience for me. And that, you know, obstacle really taught me so much about now. And just negotiating also with department stores. And when you become a brand on their floor, what is expected of you? It's a lot, and they're going to come back to you for money if it doesn't, you know, do what they want it to do, and they try to figure out how to come back a lot of times. But how do you get on the floor and work with their people? And so, I mean, I just feel like when things are super hard, it's not necessarily that one thing you get through and then, okay, I figured it out. Here we are. It's all these hard things you're doing often help you learn something that is so far down the road on the other side that makes so much sense. It's just like when he said the obstacle is the way. I'm like, you guys, that's not just you work hard for a test, you get the test. These are all life lessons we're learning all day long, and you will draw on these things forever.
Yeah. Where do you find that? That's a great story, by the way, and I love that quote. And it's a great book. The obstacle is the way. So as you've gone through all of this, and we're talking about specifically making shoes and the components, have you found that there's an area in the world that is the best manufacturer? There's an area in the world that supplies the best material. There's an area of the world that has the best labor or whatever. Have you gone through all this process, and now do you have your...
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have done manufacturing in so many countries. Right now I'm in Brazil and in China, and we've done Italy, we've done Portugal, we've done Spain, we've done Turkey, we've looked into India a lot, but haven't done that. And I feel like there's certain shoes I make in Brazil that beautiful leather, great shoes. But they do not do embellishment great. They just don't have those sourcing capabilities. So a lot of times when we try to make those shoes there, they actually just bring all that in from China. And we've had so many problems with it getting stuck in customs. And Brazil doesn't like you bringing in things for their shoes and all that crazy stuff. And there's a lot of talk about China. China is awesome. If you find the right factories, and our factories are great. I know they pay their people well. I know that they're clean. I know we visit them all the time. They're awesome. We're in the same factories that Prada is in. We're in the same all these designers, all these luxury designers produce some things in China, and they do a great job, and they do what they say they're going to do. They're on time. They're hardworking. They get it on the boat. And that's why we had to stop with some countries. It'd be like, okay, well, we need to move forward with, when it's going to be, shipped, and oh, we haven't even started that. Oh, we've been so behind. Well, why didn't you tell me that before it's supposed to ship? And we've had a lot of, lackadaisical kind of mentalities in a lot of different places. I love Brazil. I'm a Brazilian citizen, actually. And I want to do business there. I want to work there. But sometimes, just can't hit a deadline. I just can't do certain things with them. But I've learned how to navigate that. What things they're good at. We get a lot of leathers from Italy. They're great with the leathers. All the awesome little embellishments that we're known for, the beading, the embroidery, the bows, that China is so good at that. And that's where it comes from for most of all the high end. A lot of things are coming from there. Of course, other countries make these things, but it's a hub for so many things.
So I heard you talk about relationships in a previous podcast that you had done. And so I'm curious about that in how meaningful relationships are for you within your business, and like with a factory in Brazil or China or wherever you're sourcing material in Italy. Is that something that you focus on pretty?
I think it's so important, but I think it's even more important out of the U.S. I think it's more important internationally. I don't know if it's necessarily the people. I feel like I do business here in Utah with people and all over the country. And then at Christmas time, I'd like try to send some big thing from our company. And I just don't even know if they care. I do that to like our factories, and it's just like means so much to them. And also, I don't know if it's because we're so far away that time we have together, but I do think their cultures, it matters more in Brazil and in China. It really is important, the relationship. And I haven't gone to the factories for a few years, several years, because I've had people doing it for me now. But I'm going to go this next year. It's time. I need to for, relationship. And I'm not saying because I want them to do things for me necessarily. It's because they've done so much for me. They have really extended themselves. And they see themselves as our partners and to growth. And they get just as excited when we get a really big PO as I do. And I see them as our partner. And we do have like full-time people now we've hired that work there and that are in part of all that. And it makes working together better too. When you have like this bond where I say, you know what, I really need your help on this. Like, honestly, I can't pay this final huge thing for 10 more days. And they say, all right, we trust you. It's fine. We'll release the goods and whatever. It's all so much better. And I just can't believe I say all the time, wow, they have really like come through for us. And they do that because they know we're growing. They want to continue to be our partner. They want to continue to do that. Even when we're doing necessarily things that are not in their wheelhouse. Like when we started handbags, they're helping us manage the handbags, our footwear factory in China. That is incredible. They help bring in the samples. They found us the factory. If we have a problem, they go talk to the factory for us to make sure everything is in line. The relationship has been so key.
Yeah. Have you found like internally, I mean, I look back at so you got introduced through a friend to Diane, and that helped get into that scenario, and that was maybe a life-changing event for you. Is that something that you have cultivated over your time as well? Kind of just these relationships and how meaningful they are within your business. Yeah. You've just demonstrated how it is in the factories, and I think the factories are willing to do things for you because you've taken time to cultivate that.
Yeah. Oh, my team is amazing. Like sometimes I'm like, wow, I am so lucky they stuck around with me. They work really, really hard and they just get it done at any cost. And I am like seriously so lucky. And there's been a core few of us that have been together for 7 years. And that my first full-time hire was in 2017. And that's Tommy. And he has been through it all. And his family is so awesome too. He'll be like, Casey, his wife, she's going to go pick up this box and she's going to get it to the FedEx overnight, get it to the show on time. And his daughter will be there. I'm like, hey, Lucy, you're a size 7, right? Can you try these on while I'm on Zoom? I need to see all these shoes on. I mean, our poor families, like they are just so involved. Like one time I was, needed to see some shoes on. They just, it's just different when you see it on and when you're fitting it and making comments for factories. And I send the pictures and someone called me and go, whose scraggly toenail and hairy leg is in that shoe? I was like, it was my son. And I was like, I didn't think about that. I was just so excited. He was a boy's 5 or a boy's 9. Women's 7. And he was like, don't you ever tell anyone that you're making me wear these to take pictures. But I'm like, I just need to show them what I'm talking about. The strap's not right. And anyway, they picked up on it right away. Like, what's that scraggly toenail, Ashley? What's that hairy leg? And they're like,
that's so funny.
So, I mean, but my team, like they put up with stuff like that. And their families have put up with stuff like that. And it's like they're all in. And they believe in what we're doing. And they see the growth. And, I feel like, holidays, we love to, just express how much we care about each other. And we really appreciate, we're not in the same room a lot, but they all come in when we have big events. And I love being with them. They are so creative. Oh my gosh. My person who heads up a lot of our marketing, it's like, she just takes on another thing. I can do that. I can do calligraphy on all the boxes for the influencers. I'm like, oh my gosh, Ellie, you have so much to do. You are like doing everything. I was a wedding coordinator. I can arrange that big thing of flowers for the event. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, okay, but did you get all the marketing things out? And did you get everything else done? And she's arranging flowers till midnight. Like, and I don't know if that's anything I've like been able to, cultivate, or they're just amazing, because I feel like I am so, just grateful and in their debt for pushing so hard and sticking with me. But it's a really great group.
Well, I think you're probably being modest, because they're sticking around for a reason. And I'm just guessing that you've created a culture
I mean,
where people want to be
I hope
around
so.
that
They're
kind
awesome.
that kind of energy.
I hope so.
Well, it sounds like you've built a great team. Okay. What is the best advice you've ever been given, or that you've given somebody else?
Given someone else. I mean, I just believe it's all about grit. It's about grit at the end of the day. And some people just don't have it. And that's okay. Good for you. You don't have to fight this weird mountain battle that some of us like want to tackle. But you have to have it, and you have to use it, and you have to keep reminding yourself. But the biggest lesson with the grit that I feel like I've had to learn in the most recent, year or two, it's to rise above and be positive through it. If you get yourself to a point where it's like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I don't know how I'm going to do this. This is hard. And you start like kind of just building up all the problems to yourself. And it just kind of gets you in this box of this rut. And when you just talk yourself into a better place, it's going to be okay. I'm going to figure this out. I am got this. I'm going to do this. All of a sudden, I don't know if it's the law of the universe, the ideas start to flow. It's like things start to come to you. And I am a very prayerful person, and I pray a lot. And I feel like God has gotten me through so much with being able to balance everything and survive through craziness. But I do believe there's that law of, gratitude and positivity, that when things are so heavy, and you can have grit and just fight. But if you're just kind of in a dark place of, this is so hard and I just got to get through it and it's miserable, but I'm going to do it. But if you step back and say, look at all the good that has happened. Look where I've come from. And even if it's just the beginnings, if it's not that hard, but if you just put this positive mindset, I promise this inside passion gets to flow, and then the juices start moving, and then the problem solving, and then it's fun too. Mm-hmm. It's not fun when you're focusing on the hard stuff being too hard to handle.
It's such an interesting thing, because all of us, it happens to all of us. We all get stuck in a rut. And the truth is, it takes a lot less energy to be stuck. Mm-hmm. I mean, you just don't have to expend much energy to be there. And some people feel like that's a comfort place. I'm just going to be stuck here. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to expend any energy or take a risk or anything else. So what is the go-to? How do you rise above that? What is the technique that you use to change this mental?
Hard.
It's really difficult.
It's actually hard. Like when I'm trying to tell someone else, and then I go and have to do it myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is hard. I think we have kind of our own ways. I know Matt, when he's just like, things are super heavy for him and he's got like a really big, important meeting, he goes down on the bike and he's like super crazy down there. And he's like, and I hear him, and he's like, he rides like 20 miles a day, and he's cranking, he's yelling, and he just like comes up drenched in sweat. And he's like, I feel so much better. That's not me.
I think a lot of people, like, I would align with that.
You would.
Like, if I'm feeling...
I wish that was me. I wish I could
get out on the trail, get on the bike.
Two birds with one stone. You get to work out and you feel better, and it clears his head.
Yeah.
I'm more, okay, I have to think this through and really conceptualize it. And I can take a walk to kind of clear my head or anything, but it's more talking myself through things. It's more, just mentally going, okay, this is how I would do it. This is how, and I just sit and contemplate and talk myself into a better place and it can be a while, and it almost feels like layers. Like, oh my gosh, I feel like I can't get this brick off my chest. I can't take a deep breath. And hopefully I'm the only one who gets like so like heavy like this, but where it's like breath work. And okay, now I feel a little better. Now I'm going to listen to something that makes me a little soothing. And then I just tell myself, like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You've come this far. It's going to be okay. It's fine. Good things are happening. Just keep going. Just keep going. And it's not like I'm just going to give up, but it's like, oh, I don't see how I'm going to get out of this. This is miserable. This is hard. And you have to be that person if you're leading the team. Mm-hmm. And it's hard. And sometimes I want to throw it back on them to come up with the ideas. But it's all about, like, for me, just over and over, I have to just, as soon as that little, like, doubt starts to leak in, just fight it with, no, it's going to be okay, because I've had to learn this over and over again. The good things rarely come to me when I'm in a really dark place. They just don't. It's like usually, like, I don't know if it's the energy you're sending or, all the, faith or whatever it is. When I rise above and I let it go and I let, like, the joy in and the belief that it's going to work out, the doors start to open.
One thing you mentioned, and I think is a powerful tool, is you demonstrate gratitude for, like, your team, for the factories, for your family. Yeah. And it seems like that is also something that
Doesn't it feel good? It just feels good when you say all the things. You're like, oh, wait.
Yes. It can change your mindset immediately.
It changes it. You just start talking about these things like, oh my gosh, like, I've got a lot, like, behind me. I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. Is that something that you demonstrate to your kids? Is that something you talk to your kids about? Is that something you're teaching?
Yes, I do. I mean, I was just in the car this morning with my girls, and they were complaining about how someone's, doing something rude and someone's doing something annoying at school. And I was just like, you guys, like, maybe you should just be grateful that you, can rise above, and that is not something you're doing. Be grateful for, I'm not talking back to the teacher, like, because I know better, rather than, just wasting your energy on being so frustrated with them. Mm-hmm. But it's always like, just, wow, we have so much. We are so blessed. And I don't mean materially. I mean, we have so much love in our family, to have so many people watching over each other and taking care of each other. And when one of us is having a hard time, everyone remembers, when we're doing family prayer dinner or night or whatever, it's like, oh, remember Samuel's sick. Like, it's just like, there's so much love and so much goodness there to be grateful for. And I mean, I just think that stems from, you can't have more to be grateful for than all the love around you. So bring that to the center, and then things can stem from that.
It's funny that you were talking about some of those things. I love to find the opportunity to do the gratitude speech with kids. Yeah. I'm pulling that out all the time. In fact, it's my go-to. If anyone comes around and they're complaining about something, I am immediately, I got this. I have the gratitude speech. Something just happened today in the newspaper that I read about, or online, or whatever it is, Seriously. And I'm bringing this out because we are just blessed. I mean, we're lucky. No. We're all lucky.
Yes.
You mentioned that you have a foundation in faith, and can you talk about that at all, and how meaningful that is for your life and for your business?
Yes, it has been a huge part of my life, including my business. Honestly, like, I stretch myself really, really thin, and I just think I can do way more than I do. Sometimes I think, like, my brain is so much, like, runs so much faster than the rest of my body can, and I want to be like the best mom I can be. I want to be the best wife, and I can't do all those things, and I can't be the best boss, and I can't, but I feel like with God's help, He helps me pull it all together the best I can. And I pray a lot. I worship a lot. I read scriptures to my kids every single night. I try, to do my own things in the day, because I need it to keep me grounded in, not getting down, not having doubts, not feeling overwhelmed, and getting through these days where there's this book I read when they were little. It's called The Boy Who Wouldn't Share. And this horrible fight between these siblings all day long. At the end of the day, it just seems like everything is going bad. One of them says, yeah, sorry, whatever. And the last the last line of the book says, and what do you know it? The day turned out fine. And I just feel, and I say that to my kids all the time, and I just feel like with God on my side, and I know Jesus is like my Redeemer, and I have such a strong testimony, and with those things on my side, what do you know it? The day turns out fine. Like it's hard, but it's like we're here and we're lifted, and I just think I need that faith element. Also raising my kids, like in this world, I would just be so overwhelmed. I'd be so overwhelmed. The things, like I have 2 high schoolers, and the things that are thrown at them are so different than my world and what I grew up with. And they're such good kids. But I constantly am talking about, did you pray about it? Did you this? And it's just like such a conversation of our life that, we're not alone. And if you seek those things, they're there for you.
It's very comforting to have that piece of your life available.
It is.
And to foster and develop that relationship.
And I believe that we are who we are. God created us. So I always think if I received these passions and skills, he knows they're inside of me. And he knows this is like my passion. And, some people have different passions. Maybe they're, artists in all these different ways and all these different things. And he knows their passions and he knows mine. And he wants me to develop them. And he wants me to be successful. And he wants me to have joy in it. And he wants me to learn and grow through these really hard things. So, and I've said multiple times, if you don't want me to do this, I'm done. I'm done because I don't want to fight against the pricks here.
No.
But, and I have felt like there are times that were really hard, and I'm like, is this what I should be doing, when I'm raising my family? And then always there was something that popped up on my, screen or, remembered something very poignant that was like, God wants me to go on. This is my journey, and he is there for me in it.
It's a great technique too, because we run up against obstacles all the time, and you've talked about it extensively. And if I have that mindset, like, wait, I need to go through this, I approach it completely differently than going down the other path of negativity. In fact, I say this pretty regularly. I think God is testing me with my golf swing right now. Like it's not working out.
It could be anything.
And I think I'm supposed to learn something. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm going to keep that.
Yeah. Anything. It's like we're here to develop and grow and become better and learn, and and that's the whole process. And yeah.
Well, I have really enjoyed this conversation, and I'd love to talk to you for another hour or however, but we're gonna end it here. But I would like to ask you, as you look back across your career and where you are now, as growing up, going to high school, and that transition through college, getting married, having kids, running a business. It feels like, you're sitting here today and we look at you and we think, oh my gosh, Ashley is so amazing. She's so successful. Is there anything that you would have done differently as you took this entire journey to this point today?
Honestly, I think I was so young when I started. I just kind of thought, what would be the most fun and passionate and all that thing, the path, which is all good. And I feel like we're taught so much that, especially people like me with ADD, it's like, just find something you're so passionate about, you love. And I could have found something this is kind of nuts and bolts. I was a little more passionate about that wasn't so complicated, to be honest with you. Sizing, bulking, shipping, fulfillment of something this big and several pounds, it's hard. Yeah. And I don't regret it by any means, but I think when people are starting out as a business, think about things that you're passionate about and you love and everything that aren't also going to be really hard from a logistical standpoint and things like that. And I am so excited about apparel and clothes. Like they're showing me like how it's packing. I'm like, I could put like 100 of those in a box and airship it. Where I put like 8. So I just think like also and I tell my kids to be passionate and everything, but also be very logical because you're going to be doing this for a long time. And I'm so glad I did. And the way I did it, but now that I'm branching out, it's fun to have handbags and not have sizes, and it's fun. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of a little side thing, but it has been something that I've thought about over the years.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to finish off with one thing that you mentioned early on. We didn't get to it during our conversation, but you were very high energy, kind of a self-diagnosed ADD, and but I love the way that you approach it.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about the way that you talk with your kids about it is you consider this your superpower. It's not something that you need to medicate around. You learn to work with it and use it for supreme focus.
Yes, for sure. And my son, I do have my boys were medically diagnosed, and my dad was. I was like, we have it there, but I think it's a superpower. There is no way I could be holding a baby, juggling on a hip, managing the mute button on a conference call, while I'm like,
Matt eating Indian food.
Yeah, like smelling the vindaloo, and just juggling a million balls. It's almost like so many things can go on. And so when I started and I had this partner, Tiffany is still one of my amazing good friends, Sean's wife, and she said, I love you. I want to be your friend, but like, you're going to make me crazy. Like, I can't do this. Like, she wanted, these are the work hours, these are these hours. And I just do it all at the same time. While I try to be done when my kids get home from school, there's always a call, there's emails, there's stuff. I'm not gone to the office. I'm presently in the home and there. But I feel like that is ADD for me. That is, and hyper focusing. Like, and I watch my kids do. I'm like, oh, here we go. Like, they retain information and they do so good when they're under pressure. Like, when you're under pressure and you have to focus and you don't have a choice. And I think that's an ADD thing because you won't be distracted because you are under the gun. But it just puts you into this drive that it just cranks you. And really great things actually could happen. And I found myself doing that in college where it's like, I would subconsciously wait so much longer because I felt like I was more successful when I would do that, which is so backwards in the way you should do education, really. But when I got into my hyperdrive, hyper focus, super in it, my brain just like went into another gear.
Yeah.
And I did take Ritalin one time. I got it from my uncle, who's only 3 years older than me. He's like, why don't you just try a few pills to see if it helps you? And I took it and I tested out of like a whole math class and I was like, whoa, that was weird. And in college, and then I took it again and I just didn't like how it made me feel. Yeah. I'm like, I can't live on this. So yeah, I'm not like against it, and maybe my kids for college tests or something like that.
Sure.
Not against it, but I like the bouncing around in my brain. I like the excitement. I like the highs. I like the lows. I like it. I just like, that's kind of who I am and how I've become like, the person I am.
Okay. Where can we find you? Where can we find your shoes? Where can we find your new bags and the apparel that's coming out?
So Cecelia, by the way, is my oldest daughter. So it's CECE, spelled a little different. CECLA, then New York spelled out.com is the website. At Cecelia New York is the handle for all the socials. We're on Anthropology, Nordstrom, going into Dillard. So excited about this spring. And about 200 specialty stores throughout the U.S. and Canada, some international stores. But yeah, you can find us.
Well, when you start doing men's shoes, you let me know.
I will. You are a shoe guy.
I have some thoughts about that.
Okay.
Some big thoughts. Ashley Cole, Cecelia, New York. This has been a fascinating interview and conversation. I loved it. I learned so much. Our listeners are going to learn so much because you have figured out the way to balance everything and make it look so easy. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to the Know Your Ship podcast presented by eHub. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review.